So here's a signaling mirror that I've cut from a kid's locker mirror. Cut it and it fits perfectly right here. I have the plastic overlay on it, which I haven't peeled off yet. I'll peel that off once I've inserted it. And I've cut it to precisely fit right here. I made this curved area on the mirror with one of these. I don't know what they're called, but I think they're for kind of carving out drywall. Pretty useful tool. It turns a drill into a saw. I guess I'll leave the plastic on it while it's inside my kit, but this does get quite a bit shinier and nicer once you peel off that outer plastic. Let's attach it to one of my knives. This is a different one. This is the Ranger. Ta-da! Signaling mirror. So here's the mirror. There's like no area for, there we go. So in addition to the mirror, another possibility would be a flattened Tinderquik. Tinderquik, if you squish them up with water so that they're like a sponge, you can then compress them in a vise overnight, let it dry out, and then when you open up the vise, you have this, which is a very compact, very thin Tinderquik. Tinderquik are great. They're very much like cotton impregnated with Vaseline, but they're not oily. So you don't get oil on your fingers because it's a wax. They use wax instead of oil. And you could cut a Tinderquik down to about half size to fit this little pocket area as well. So that would be another possibility. To reconstitute these, you need to just squish them and bend them and kind of wiggle them around. It takes actually longer than you would think, a few minutes, and you can get it back into the puffy form that you're going to use for using as tinder, which you then fluff up even further, so you want them very airy. But Tinderquik are great. They're waterproof. You don't have to worry about it dying if it ever gets soaking wet. You do have to dry it out before you use it, however, or at least squish out as much water as you can. Of course, you can also use the Bling Vagabond as your sun reflector. All of these methods, they're not as good as having a real mirror, but it's always good to have backup methods. Only the little 58mm knives will polish like this, by the way, so don't get interested in doing one of the aluminum exterior models. It has to be stainless steel. So during covert ops and survival situations, cordage is a very useful thing to carry. You can actually carry some stealth cordage on your Swiss Army knife. This is about 10 feet of dental floss. This is dental floss that I've mounted underneath the scale. About 10 feet. This is great stuff. It has all sorts of applications. I just tested it. It seems to have a breaking strength of about 10 to 20 pounds. I'm sure it depends on what brand of dental floss you buy. But emergency cordage is great. You can use it for shoelaces, all sorts of things in many different survival situations. So using my Vagabond, I'm making a very thin little cut right here. Just a little teeny notch. And hopefully I can now snap in a fishing hook. I haven't detached the fishing line from it yet. Let's see if I can get it in there. There, I think that will work. And let's see if it'll snap on to the knife. Seems to work. So I wouldn't have the fishing line attached to it, but this shows you could carry a fishing hook in that position as well. So although I may carry a hook inside the knife, the fishing line I'd actually recommend carrying externally. Paracord, this great stuff, you can gut it and it becomes 7, this one actually 8 different internal strands, and you can use that as your emergency fishing line. I show a bunch of videos about how to carry paracord. My first method was called a parafob. Paracord plus key fob equals parafob. If you want to learn about how to make these, which also can work as a lanyard on the knife, search YouTube for parafob. I then came up with a 1-minute bracelet because it takes 1 minute to construct, and it only takes 5 seconds to deploy. Whereas these parafobs take 1 second to deploy. Or you can use my mega bracelet design. Just make a short version if you want to make a lanyard for your knife. The advantage to these is the cordage is unlimited. You can make them any size you want. If you make big fat ones, you can even make bracelets that carry like 50 feet of paracord. Anyway, paracord is great stuff to have on your knife for all sorts of reasons besides just a fishing line. I recommend this stuff highly for survival kits. If you open up knives, you can often find little ways to sort of tuck in extra little products. For instance, on this one, if you look underneath the corkscrew, you'll see I've installed a safety pin. Safety pins are sort of a useful device to have. On this one, I've done the same thing, but underneath it has a paper clip. So you can store things inside or on the scales. Paper clips are the MacGyver super tool. You can make all sorts of things out of paper clips. And safety pins, they're sort of like a great pin. They'll do everything a pin can do, plus other things. You can even use it as a fishing hook in an emergency. Just open it up, attach your fishing line here, and bingo, you've got a little fishing hook. Check out my video called Free Battery Tester. I show how you can take this out of a Duracell battery, which checks the battery strength with this little color bar graph, and make it into a portable device that you can carry inside your Swiss Army knife. A little bit weak, but still good to go. My tactical tool tin is complete. Video coming soon. My mini vise has seen better days. I'm using a carbide grit saw from Stanley. Get a great light show and smoke. There we go. So in a previous video I showed how I've adapted my Cybertool 41 to take full-size bits with this magnetic locking on full-size adapter, so it'll take 1/4-inch drive, which I like. But I've done other modifications to the Cybertool as well. One thing is I wanted a little cleaning cloth so I can clean my eyeglasses. I know this may seem small, oh sorry I bumped the camera, but it is just big enough that I can clean my eyeglasses, and it also is a little holder for a magnifying glass. I've always liked how there was a magnifying glass on the Swiss Champ, for instance, and I missed that, so I've actually put a magnifying glass in my Cybertool. I took the lens out of a Bausch & Lomb jeweler's loop, I guess you call it. So Bausch & Lomb is a pretty good brand, so that gives you an idea of the kind of optical quality. And that sort of lives right over here, so you get two tools in one right there. So once you cut them down, you can fit ferro rods into various positions. This is called a mouse ferro rod. I bought it from Going Gear. They only cost $1. And I've cut it down in length so it can live right here underneath the Cybertool. If you look at my other video, the one on the 58mm survival Swiss Army knife I made, I showed how you can make a little emergency sewing kit. You basically just take a needle, you thread it with about 1 meter of thread, you then coil it around the needle, and then you can stick it into little small areas, such as this little extra pocket that I've opened up. Other tools that might fit in there, for instance, this sewing needle from a Speedy Stitch used for repairing sails and canvas and leather. It's the right diameter. You could fit one in there. It's too long, however, so you'd have to cut it down, and then you need some kind of a holding mechanism for it as well. So here's an interesting mod I've done to a couple of my Swiss Army knives. Normally, this area right up here looks like this. But you see how I filed it down here on this one? And on this one, I filed the plastic Celador scale, but not the metal. On this one, I did both the metal and the Celador scale. So why do that? I'll show you. Let's see if we could do it with a Victorinox file. And the other one I did with a full-size file, but I don't see why you can't do it with one of these. Let's give it a go. I always liked that the plus scales come with this screwdriver, this eyeglass screwdriver, which screws into the corkscrew. Only problem is that tip is not what my eyeglasses use. Wah wah. So, wouldn't it be cool if you had a screwdriver that did work? Luckily, you can buy screwdrivers that will work, such as this Calhawk one, model CSDP6N1. You can either store the blades inside the tube that's kind of like a commando style screwdriver, or I've actually made a little container for them by cutting out the plastic box that it comes with, and you get a nice little assortment of blades. So what I can do is I can carry the correct one for my eyeglasses, and it goes right in here. Can sort of screw it in, and then thanks to that modification you've made, it's nice and almost perfectly flush. It takes a bit of effort to get it out because it is in there nice and tight, and then to use it, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but it has these kind of like butterfly wings. You can use that as kind of a basis for screwing it in, kind of wedge it in there. And now you've got a nice little eyeglass screwdriver. Or for instance, I can show you on this little photon here. So this is a great modification to these. Now you can carry whatever blade you want. So if the one that it comes with is not good for you, you can carry the one that you like. And it stores right in the corkscrew itself. And so there's a possibility that if you like extra storage positions for extra products, you could do that. You could put a little nail nick, I suppose, on the blade to make it easier to pull out. So that's a great thing to have. Universal screwdriver application for the Victorinox. I'm not the first person to show this, but something that's kind of cool about the pen, especially once you do this modification up front, is that it can now shoot in and out straight, whereas without this filing, it kind of shoots off to the side. This means that you can actually use this end, screw it in, and then use this as sort of a full-length pen to do your writing rather than just holding this little part. And notice it shoots straight out thanks to the file down modification. So in my earlier video called Mini Swiss Army Survival Knife Mods, I showed how to modify the small keychain models to include, for instance, a straight pin. Inside there's a little mini sewing kit, ferrocerium rod. Oh, and it has a pen. This model called the Vagabond didn't come with a pen, but I added that. This video, however, is more about the 91mm series knives. So if you want to learn about the big knives, this is your video. But if you want to learn about the little ones for the keychain, check out Mini Swiss Army Survival Knife Mod.